everyone. I am Ramrose Eladovise from Group 10 and with my group mates Walt Samson, Crizel Anamoka, and Noriza Makarampa. Now I will be the one to report the author's background of the novel Lord of the Flies. Now who is the author of The Lord of the Flies? The author is William Gerald Golding, a teacher, playwright, a poet, and became a popular British novelist. Born in Cornwall on September 29, 1911, died on June 19, 1993 at the age of 81 in Paranorworthal, Cornwall, England. He is the son of Alex, a schoolmaster, and Mildred, a suffragette. When we say suffragette, a woman who advocates to fight the rights of women, especially the rights for voting. Now, William took his early education at the school his father ran, Marlborough Grammar School. William experienced teaching. In 1935, Golding took a position teaching English and philosophy at Bishop Woolworth's School in Salisbury. He experienced teaching unruly young boys who would later serve as his inspiration in writing his novel Lord of the Flies. In 1940, temporarily abandoned the teaching profession to join the Royal Navy and fight in World War II. While in Royal Navy, he developed his bravery to fight and prove that his participation in the war can be a fruitful material for his fiction. The reason that even his novel is fictional, its exploration of human nature in both good and evil side is at least partly based on Golding's experience with the real evidence and brutality of World War II. William Golding in 1980 won the Booker Prize Award, and in 1983 he won the Nobel Prize of Literature. In total, Golding published 42 novels, including Lord of the Flies, date published 1954, The Inheritors, date published 1955, and The Pincher Martin, date published 1956, and more. That's all. Thank you.
Hello, good day everyone. At this moment, let's explore one of the literary pieces of Mr. William Golding, The Lord of the Flies. Later on, we will witness the namely titled of how it became itself. And now, let's begin. Lord of the Flies begins when a plane carrying a group of British schoolboys is shut down over the Pacific Ocean during an atomic war. The pilot is killed, but many of the boys survive, deserted on an uninhabited island without adult supervision. The boys discover food and fire. They craft tools and form political and social systems. However, their brutal instincts eventually devolve into savagery and violence. So their challenges for control demonstrates the struggles for power between democratic and authoritarian political systems. Ralph is the protagonist of the story and the elected leader of the boys. He is a handsome, confident, and calm 12-year-old. He represents the political and moral tradition of liberal democracy, trying to protect the group of boys from nature and their base instincts. Ralph's friend Piggy is a pudgy and awkward asthmatic boy with glasses who shows keen intelligence. Piggy detests physical labor, embodying intellectualism and culture within the democratic system that Ralph represents. Jack is aggressive, cruel, and sadistic, exemplifying militarism under authoritarianism. Once the leader of the boys' choir, he turns the choir boys into hunters, seeking to conquer and control nature through violence. Simon has a deep affinity with nature and often walks alone in the jungle. Like Piggy, he is an outcast. He represents the spiritual side of humanity. Sam and Eric are identical twins. The others consider them the same person and combine their names into one name that is called Sam Nerik. They embody the struggle for individualism and human uniqueness. Roger is boorish and cruel like Jack and enjoys hurting others. Maurice relishes the spiritual of hunting and epitomizes the mindless masses within a militant society. Percival is one of the smallest boys on the island. His character is an example of the weak members of society that a successful democracy strives to protect. The novel opens with Ralph climbing out of plane wreckage, searching for survivors on a beach. Um, Afterwards, he finds others like himself, and they elect him as their chief. Ralph, Simon, and Jack explore the island and search for food. Jack shows early signs of violent behavior when he tries to kill a wild piglet, but bolts before he can actually stab it. Ralph calls a meeting with all the boys to set rules of order. Jack agrees with his edict because rules are an opportunity to inflict control and punishment. They all agree to use a conch shell, which authorizes its holder to speak and is available to all. Ralph instructs the boys to build a fire on the mountaintop to signal their presence to any passing ships. Piggy proves essential when his glasses are used to start the fire. The boys soon settle into a daily pattern on the island, showing the decency toward one another. Jack and his choir boys turned hunters try to hunt pigs, unconcerned with their long term survival. Ralph orchestrates the building of shelters. The youngest of the boys, known generally as the Little Ones, spend most of the day searching for fruit to eat and are in constant fear of an imaginary beast. Piggy is who is viewed as an outsider among the boys, considers building a sundial. Simon, the only boy who has consistently helped Ralph, enjoys walking around the jungle alone, where he finds a serene, open space with the aromatic bushes and flowers. A ship passes by the island but doesn't stop, perhaps because the fire has burned out. Piggy blames Jack for letting the fire die, for he and his hunters have been preoccupied with killing a pig at the expense of their duty. Jack punches Piggy, breaking one lens of his glasses, and his hunters chant, "Kill the pig! Cut her throat! Bash her in!" They perform a ritualistic dance in which Maurice pretends to be a pig and the others pretend to attack him. Ralph becomes concerned by the irresponsible behavior of Jack and his hunters and begins to appreciate Piggy's maturity. He calls an assembly and criticizes the boys for not assisting with the shelters and not maintaining the fire on the mountaintop. The little ones express their fears of an imaginary beast, but Ralph attempts to demystify the question of the bestie. Jack then decides to abandon established rules and to lead an expedition to hunt the beast, leaving only Ralph, Piggy, and Simon behind. Piggy warns Ralph that if Jack becomes chief, the boys will never be rescued. That night, during an aerial battle, a pilot parachutes down to the island. The next morning, as the twins Sam and Eric are adding kindling to the fire, they spot the dead pilot and mistake him for the beast. When they alert the others, Jack calls for a hunt. Ralph decides to join the expedition to find the beast, despite his wish to rekindle the fire on the mountain top. The next morning, the boys gather on the beach to discuss what the hunters saw. Piggy remains skeptical that there actually is a beast. Ralph dismisses the hunters as boys with sticks, but Jack accuses him of calling his hunters cowards. Jack attempts to assert control, calling for Ralph's removal as chief, but when Ralph retains the support of the other boys, Jack runs away and crying. Piggy tells the group that they are better off without Jack. If the beast prevents them from getting to the mountaintop, he says that they should build a fire on the beach. Simon leaves to sit in the open space that he found earlier. Far off along the beach, Jack claims that he will be the chief of the hunters. He will lead them to the castle rock where they will build a fort and have a feast. The hunters kill a pig, and Jack smears the blood over Maurice's face. They then cut off the head and leave it on a stake as an offering for the beast. The pig's head is a symbol of the lowliness and violence that motivates Jack's desire for power. Jack lures the other boys with hunting and meat, and all of them, except for Ralph and Piggy, join him. Meanwhile, Simon finds the pig's head that the hunters had left. He dubs it to the Lord of the Flies because of the insects that swarm around it. He believes that it speaks to him, telling him how foolish he is and that the other boys think he is insane. Simon falls down and loses consciousness, then wakes up. He wanders around to find the dead pilot that the boys perceive to be the beast and realizes what it actually is. He throws up in disgust, then rushes down the mountain to alert the other boys. Ralph and Piggy search for the other boys to check on them. When they find Jack, Ralph and Jack argue over who will be chief. When Piggy claims that he gets to speak because he has the conch, Jack tells him that the conch does not count on his side of the island. As a storm begins, Simon rushes from the forest, telling them about the dead body on the mountain. All of the boys mistake him for the beast and kill him. The next day, Ralph and Piggy discuss Simon's death. They both took part in the murder, but now attempt to justify their behavior as motivated by fear and instinct. The only four boys who are not part of Jack's tribe are Ralph and Piggy and the twins, Sam and Eric, who will help tend to the fire relocated from the mountaintop to the beach. Jack now rules over the other boys with the trappings of an idol at his newly established camp at Castle Rock. He has kept one boy tied up, and he instills fear in the other boys by warning them about the beast and intruders. Meanwhile, Ralph, Piggy, Sam, and Eric struggle to keep the fire going. During the night, the hunters raid the shelters and attack the four boys, who fight them off but suffer considerable injuries. Piggy learns the purpose of the attack. They came to steal his glasses. After the attack, the four boys decide to go to the Castle Rock to appeal to Jack as civilized people, dressed in their schoolboy clothes. When they reach Castle Rock, Ralph uses the conch, trying to establish the old order. Jack, fresh from hunting, refuses to listen to Ralph's appeals to justice. Ralph calls the boys painted fools and defends himself with a spear when Jack attacks him with his own. Jack takes Sam and Eric as prisoners and orders them to be tied up. Piggy asks if they would rather have rules and peaceful agreement or be able only to hunt and kill, but Percival tips a rock over on Piggy, causing Piggy to fall down the mountain to the beach. The impact kills him and to the delight of Jack, shatters the conch shell. Jack declares himself as a chief and hurls his spear at Ralph, who runs away injured. Ralph hides near Castle Rock, where he can see the other boys, whom he no longer recognizes as civilized British boys, but as savages. He crawls to Jack's camp, where Sam and Eric are now stationed as guards, and they give him some meat and urge him to leave. While Ralph hides, the other boys roll rocks down the mountain. Ralph realizes that they are hunting him and setting the forest on fire in order to smoke him out and destroy whatever fruit is left. As the boys close in on him with spears, Ralph finally collapses on the beach where a naval officer has arrived with his ship. The officer tells Ralph he saw the smoke from the ship and decided to investigate the island. He thinks that the boys have only been playing games, and he scolds them for not behaving like responsible British boys. As they prepare to leave the island for home, Ralph weeps for the death of Piggy and for the end of the boys' innocence. All of the other boys begin to cry as well. And that is the last part of the story.
Hello, this is Walt, and at this point, I will be elaborating the symbolisms I found while reading the novel, The Lord of the Flies. The first step would be the conch shell. If you have remembered or if you have read the full text of the novel, on the early parts of the story, when Ralph and Piggy realize that there are no adults around, they found a conch shell and Ralph blew it to summon the other possible survivors with a noise. The conch in the latter parts also gives power to anybody who has it to speak. When I realized what the meaning of the conch shell, I remember the people that I look up to. These people have a voice to speak not just for themselves, but for the people who has never found their voices. The people who are oppressed, the people who are abused, and the people who aren't recognized in the society. That reminded me of the importance of influence and how we should be using it for the common good. Because if we would use our voices to the things that we are passionate about, we are uplifting ourselves and providing ourselves with our own platforms to advocate for the causes that are close to our hearts. With this, we are touching the lives of the people we help as well as those who see our actions as somehow inspiring. And that would allow them also to use their voices as well. So it's basically a ripple of empowering one another. On the other hand, I kind of thought that the conch is pretty much the same with the law. Because the law provides order on what the people should and should not do. Thus, the power to regulate violating actions is upheld. On the glorious nights of the deserted island, only the fire gave warmth to the boys and the little ones. It gave them light to foresee and develop that hope for learning new things. Even in our daily lives, when something gives us light, it allows us to hope for better things. Whereas in the novel, the flame was used to attract help from the boats passing near the island. The fire symbolizes rescue, not just from being trapped in the island, but also from the chaos that they are experiencing due to the poor government. The third symbol would be the eyeglasses used by Piggy. If you remember, the eyeglass was used to create fire, right? But it also means innovation and discovery. Innovation and discovery takes place when we think of things more than what is its original purpose. To create something out of something. The glasses also symbolizes clear perspectives on identifying what the best option is, just like on what we did on the 2022 national elections. We were given the opportunity to choose who among the candidates for different government positions deserve our vote. We were supposed to elect the best leaders based on what qualifications a candidate should have. The fourth symbol is the beast. It represents the evil inside the voice. The evil in aiming the authority to be one step ahead of another. When we contextualize the beast to the things that are happening in our society, these are the wicked interests of every people. When we have personal interests concerning only ourselves, we would always find a way to achieve it, not considering the people we'll be stepping upon along the way. This could be selfishness, greed, and even dark intentions. As much as this drive motivation for the wicked, this instills fear to the ordinary people. This is why I personally think that we should try to battle the evil inside our hearts as much as we could to not negatively impact the lives of the people around us. The island would be the fifth element. This symbolizes our community, our country, and our world. Everything that happened within the island is a reflection of what happens in our own community. The issues presented are nothing far from what we experience. The poor government of our country has led to various impacts affecting our fellow Filipinos who are poor. The irresponsibility of the global citizens has immensely destroyed our environment, resulting to climate change. As I end this segment, may all the lessons and symbolisms discussed in this novel be reflected upon by us. We are dying and we are deteriorating, and it is up to us if we would make immediate actions done now. Let us be better people and apply what this story is trying to imply to us. And that shaping society must be anchored to ethical nature of the individual and not on any political system, however apparently logical and respectable. Good day.
Hello everyone, so today I will discuss the contribution and influence of the literary piece to the society. Does literature contribute to society? How does literature influence our lives? Literature has had a significant influence on the evolution of society. It has influenced civilization, altered political systems, and revealed injustice. Literature provides us with a true glimpse into human experiences, allowing us to connect on fundamental levels of need and emotion. Literature has an impact on us and helps us grasp the various aspects of life. Narratives, in particular, elicit empathy and provide a fresh perspective on one's own and others' lives. Literature influences society in at least three vital ways. Literature helps to resolve societal conflicts. It gives us a platform to vent out our negative emotion and better understand the perspective of others. This allows the social machine to function smoothly, avoiding a disastrous engine failure, what might have led to a full-blown warfare between nations gets fought out in a series of mock combats between kings and peoples. Our primal instincts of violence and aggression are thereby channeled into something constructive. Literature has healing properties and acts as a form of art therapy. Art making, which includes writing stories and poems, acts as a coping mechanism to deal with a diverse range of psychological problems, fosters a sense of positive identity and allows people to focus on positive life experiences, relieving the underlying physical and or mental pain and suffering they are going through, and allow the victims of natural or man-made disaster to cope with their traumatic experience. Myth-making and meaning-making are what we do as human beings in order to make sense of the world around us and our place in it as individuals, tribes, or members of the same species in general. Schools or philosophy and religions have sprung up all over the world to fulfill these common needs. Literature is at the very core of our social evolution as a species, and it shapes and revises our norms, values, moral codes, beliefs, symbols, fables, and folk culture. In each subsequent generation, for better or worse, hopefully for the perceivably better. Literature is also perhaps the best propaganda tool to promote a particular worldview or ideology. The fact that Christianity is the largest religion on the planet goes hand in hand with the fact that the Bible is the best-selling book of all the time as well.